Remember, this show is available on both YouTube and Spotify. And before we begin, a word from our sponsors. This podcast is powered by the Mitt TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than the Mitt TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the Mitt TV of Romeo. And you can contact them right now via email at mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tv@gmail.com. Our guest today on the Romeo Sports Recap is varsity tennis coach Matt Burr. He's the coach of both the girls varsity tennis team who played this spring and the boys varsity tennis team who are going to be playing in this fall. And Matt, thank you for stopping by and welcome to the show.
Oh, good morning. Thanks for having me.
How long have you been coaching?
I started coaching in the spring of 2017 at Romeo. I was teaching at Eastern Michigan at the time, and I was looking at doing something a little bit more leisurely in my old age, and I thought, coaching tennis would be kind of fun. So long story, I worked in the ROTC department at Eastern Michigan, and one of the captains there actually graduated from Romeo, which is kind of a coincidence. Oh, wow. And he told me about the school and the atmosphere of the community, and he just said I should jump at that chance. So I said,
so you did.
I did. I came here for an interview, and I was lucky enough to get it. So,
tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, tennis. Where did that come from?
Well, I started playing actually a little bit before I joined the Army, but when I was in the Army, I played it more. So I'm a retired Army officer. I was in it for 20 plus years. But when I first came in the Army, I came in enlisted, which is a private, the regular basic training thing. And I played a little bit of tennis. And at the end of my 4-year enlistment, I called the local college and said, hey, how do I try out for the team? And he said, I'll meet you at the park and see how good you are. And we played, and he actually beat me, and I apologized for wasting his time, and he said no player on the team has gotten games off me. So he said, I'll call the AD and see what kind of scholarship I can get you, and he offered me a scholarship right then.
Wow.
So I played there, but then I just played 1 year of college tennis, and then I got a ROTC scholarship. So I decided I needed to go full out on the Army, and tennis was just a side thing. So that was it for me for my college career. And then, but I still play tennis a little bit. A lot of times I'm in the Army, you don't even see a tennis court for years. So I think there was like a 7-year period I didn't even touch a racket. So the main reason I wanted to be a tennis coach, I just wanted to play tennis. And I thought, playing these kids would get me, playing and having fun. And that's really why I do this. It's just to kind of have a chance to actually play myself and have fun.
But you beat all of them, right?
I have never lost to a high school kid.
Good.
I'm hoping, I will be overjoyed when a player beats me. I haven't even lost a set. But when I do finally lose, I will be ecstatic, because then we'll be in really good shape for it.
Then you know that you've got something special.
Yes.
Were you overseas at all?
For most of my career, yeah.
Where were you?
So my first duty station was in Schweinfurt, Germany. I was there for 2 years. This was back in the Cold War era. I was in the CAV unit, and we were in the air CAV. So we did air missions along the Czech border. That was our mission. I got to be right up on the border and got to see the opposing forces. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an adrenaline rush, probably.
It is. It is exciting doing that. It's a great way to, improve yourself as a person and get discipline. Because as a young guy, I needed that discipline, and the Army gave it to me. And it was a great experience being in Germany and there. And then as an officer, my first duty station was Korea. I was there for a year. And then I went to Egypt. It was part of the multinational force and observers unit there to patrol the Israeli-Egyptian border. So we lived in the desert for a year.
That had been a little interesting.
It was. It had its moments. There were some interesting things, but unfortunately I can't say all the interesting things that happened. But living in the desert was tough. It's probably where I played my most tennis in the Army as an officer, because we had a tennis court. It was made on hard sand, but we played a lot there because really there was nothing else to do. And we had a Colombian. The multinational force was made up of 4 different nations, and one of the nations was Colombian. And we had one guy that was a top-ranked tennis player, so I got to play him a lot.
Well, that's good for your game.
It was, yeah. Not for my ego, but definitely good for my game. And after that, I was in Kaiserslautern for a couple of years, which is in Germany. And then I moved to Schinnen, Holland, for a couple of years. Actually, 3 years.
That close to Amsterdam?
No, actually, it's on the very
French border?
east side of Holland, along it's right there with the Belgian and German border. The house I lived at was like less than a mile from the German border, and it was great because I would go to dinner in Germany, go to the movies in Belgium, and it was just it was a great time. It was right when the Euro came out, so it became really convenient. And then from those areas, I went downrange to Kosovo and Bosnia and missions like that, and Thessaloniki, Greece, and Bulgaria. So I was in that area a lot during those conflicts.
So you've been around the world here.
I have.
In the Army. Well, we thank you for your service for that. And getting back to tennis and coaching the varsity tennis team here at Romeo, what kind of a coaching style would you describe yourself as having?
You know, one thing about Army training is that we're taught multiple different leadership styles, and you have different leadership styles for different circumstances and different personnel. So I kind of bring that to coaching. I coach the boys much differently than I coach the girls, and I coach much differently than I do the middle school, because they react differently to different leadership styles. I can. So
is your style of motivation is different for both, or
it's you want to motivate everybody, but the way you motivate is different. Like with the guys, I can challenge them more. I can be more, like more strict and more guys. With the girls, I have to be a little bit more cognizant of what I'm saying, because they see things differently.
More of a Dale Carnegie approach almost.
Yes, and of course with the middle school kids, you have to treat them like young kids. So it's always got to be positive with the middle school kids. With the girls, it's more of a positive. You can have some negatives, and with the guys, you can be more. This is what you did wrong. This is what you need to be. You can be more direct.
Yeah, yes. I was going to say, it sounds like a very.
The difficulty thing is, especially when I do boys and girls training at the same time, I sometimes
slip into.
Yes, I slip into my boys, into the girls.
That ought to shock them pretty good.
Yeah.
What it's very serious at the varsity level for these kids to compete, but I'm sure there's a few things that made you laugh, or kind of a memory that you might have of this year. Anything that sticks out in your mind at all that was kind of interesting?
This year, I mean, we do have a lot of fun and a lot of laugh. I'm not really thinking of any like really cool story for this year.
But you guys all kind of got along, and camaraderie was good.
For the most part, yes, I think it's interesting. See, the guys, I would always say that the guys are always like one big team, and they always get together. The girls are sometimes a group. They have different little sections and everything, and it is hard to get the groups together.
Understood.
So, sometimes we try to play some games with everyone on the court. We have this game called Romeo Roulette where everyone's on there and they're competing and everything to try to get them all in it. But when we're broken up, usually they're broken up in their groups and sections with the girls. The guys are more team-oriented, like a football team.
Let me switch it around then.
Sure.
An achievement this year that you're most proud of, or a couple of achievements that you're most proud of.
Well,
this
this season was going to be difficult for us because to answer this question, I have to talk a little about last year, if that's okay.
That's fine.
So last year we had the greatest season in Romeo history.
Because my co-host, Madison Janabet, was on last year's team, so I want to know more.
Was she on that? Was she on last year's team? That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay.
That team was probably our second best team ever. That team, the team that Madison on. She was a dream team doubles player on that team, and she helped us get to states. And that was the first time we had gotten states in over a decade.
Oh, wow.
So that was a huge achievement.
Last year.
So last year we also went to states. And we had 6 wins at states, 9 total points, which was the record for Macomb County at that point. Our singles was amazing that year. We ended up with at states, the 4th most points of any singles unit in the state. Our number one, Tessa Holman, she's playing at Kelvin University. We had Jade and Chase at 2 and 3, and then Tasha Burr at 4. And they were just spectacular.
So coming into this year, large expectations to live up to.
Well, no. Actually, the expectations lowered because we lost Tessa and we lost Tasha. So we lost half of the greatest singles team ever. 2 of our doubles player had to go up. So it not only was our singles lower, but our doubles were lower. So the expectations of this year was just trying to survive in the top division.
And you consider that maybe an achievement that you guys did that?
Yes, and that's where I needed to do this. So we exceeded our expectations because we really didn't think we were going to be that competitive for states this year. We came up at regional just 1 short. So we were 1 victory away from making states, and we're in the second hardest regional in the state. It's kind of an unfair system. To give you an example, we tied with Okemos this year. Okemos won their region. So what a region is...
It's up by Lansing.
Yeah.
That's
sometimes. Okay. So there's 8 or 10 regionals in the state. The top 2 teams qualify for state. And there's usually like 10 or 12 teams in each regional. Top 2 teams qualify directly to states. A 3rd team can make it if they reach 18 points, which is basically 18 wins. So we would probably won the regional or tied Okemos. If we were in that region, the Troy region, we would have finished second in. It's unfortunate that our region is so tough. It helps us in some ways because we have to really get up for these things.
Yeah.
So we got 17 and we needed 18, which it's disappointing at the time. But if you had said before the season that we were that close, I would have been overjoyed. And looking back at the season, it's a big success that we made it that far. We also had 2 wins in the Red Division, which is the top division in the Macomb Athletic Conference. And that's the second most, or actually that's the most we've ever had tied with one other team, Madison's season. And we also beat Grosse Pointe South for the first time in school history. And they've won multiple state championships. So our achievements really exceeded what the expectations are. And that's just a testament of how good our young ladies played this year.
And so that is an achievement
yes,
that you can be proud of.
It was a very successful season looking at realistic goals, what we had.
Yeah.
Comparing what we lost. And we only had 1 freshman that came in. So, it was quite a good season.
If we were going to tell somebody what it takes to be a successful tennis player at Romeo, what would you tell them?
I think the most important thing is athleticism. A lot of players, especially in the younger things, don't see the importance of being a top-notch athlete. They think if they have good tennis skills, that will be enough.
Do you encourage them to play other sports, varsity sports?
I love it. I do a lot of recruiting for multi-sport athletes, and a lot of our players play multiple sports. Obviously, I would love players like Jade and Chase that are dedicated to tennis and play all year round, and that's why they're two of the best ever. But I'm not going to get 12 Jade and Chases.
Well, those are, coming along just every once in a while.
Right. So I have to get athletes, and I get them from other sports. And what makes them so good is that they can see the angles of the ball quicker because they played, volleyball or basketball or sports where footwork and positioning and anticipation are so important. That translates to the tennis game much more quicker than someone that's maybe just played tennis and can hit the ball from the baseline. They don't always get to balls that these athletes get to. So these athletes can get to maybe 8 of the 10 shots, where a person that's just a skill but not a good athlete can only get to 5 of them. So it makes a difference. So the girls that are good tennis players, I try, hey, you got to become good athletes. And the athletes are easier to train into a tennis player than a non-athlete that can play tennis. So I would say it's a sport. So athletics, conditioning, endurance, those are really important, because most of the times, like when we play quads in tournaments, they're playing 3 matches in a day. And regional, the most important day of our career or of the season, you're going to play 3 matches. So you need that endurance.
You need the endurance, the stamina,
yes.
You have an athletic sort of reserve or reservoir. Yeah. That's important. Well, let's talk a little bit about the season that you said you started out, with expectations being a little bit, maybe not very high, but you started off with a couple straight wins against Dakota and L'Anse Creuse North in March and April.
Yep, those are lower division teams. They're Division I teams as far as state, but as far as the conference, they're in the lower division for us. So those are expected results.
I mean, you won 7-1, 7-1, both
right.
matches.
The one loss in Dakota was against their number 1 player, who's all state. She's a great player, and actually that match was really a fantastic match. Jade
to watch.
Yeah, Jade had her, or was even with her, and then lost at 7-5 in that first set. So that was a great match for Jade to start off with, to give her confidence for the season, because this is the first year being number 1, and to play that high level in the first match was a big deal, and it just kind of continued on for her on that point.
Yeah, and then the Allegan Invitational on the west side of the state. Tell me what that event was like.
That is an 8-team tournament, and we get to play a lot of teams on the western side. Surprisingly, Armada was also there, so it's kind of weird that our neighbor...
Right from here, yeah.
Yes, and we play them. They had some of the top-ranked teams in some of the lower divisions, like Division II and Division III, but those teams are outstanding, especially the private schools that can get kids from everywhere. So that was a good test for some of our players, and we did pretty much what we expected right there at 4.
We continued the winning streak back home with a win over Grosse Pointe North, and that was at their place, I believe.
It was, yeah. Grosse Pointe North is a little bit of a rivalry we've kind of had with them. When we were in the 2nd division, we beat them to take their spot in the top division. Because if you win the white, then you move up to the red,
Right.
and vice versa. And we beat them that year, and we moved up. And this was their first year back in the top division, so we had to make sure that
you spanked them. That's for sure.
We spanked them.
7-1. But then you ran into Troy, and I guess, lack of better words, they kind of spanked you a little bit.
Troy, yes, Troy is one of the top teams in the state. I think they may have finished second this year. Second or third. They're definitely second or third in the states this year. So this was an elite team, and this was really a kind of a privilege for us to play them, because after our performance at last year's state, they invited us to play them, which is
that's an honor,
a compliment to us. And even though the score was 8-0, we had some very competitive matches in it. We just didn't pull any of them out.
And so you had to come back for the Romeo Invitational on the April 22nd, and how did you fare in that one?
Oh, that was quite simple. That was Utica. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember the other two teams in it. But I think we only lost a couple of matches that day.
So that was successful. That was a good comeback from the loss.
Yeah. Again,
kids responded.
Those were teams a little bit lower than us, so that was expected.
Well, you got to beat the ones they expect you to win. You better win them.
You know. Well, that's extremely important, because some of those teams are in our regional. L'Anse Creuse was also in that one. L'Anse Creuse, Utica are in our regional. Earlier, Dakota and L'Anse Creuse North also in our regional. When you do regional, before you play the tournament, all the players are seated in all the flights. So to be competitive for states, you have to be a seeded player in just about every flight. Otherwise, you have no chance. So you can't drop games to these teams.
So you have to beat them.
You have to beat them. And
if you want to go,
and it's just not you have to beat them, but you have to beat them 8-0. So there's still a lot of pressure. It's not like you're up 6 and you got 2 left and it doesn't matter. No, you have to win those. So our players are under pressure to win every match if your goal is making states
and win a healthy margin.
Yes.
After the Invitational, you were at Lake Orion and you beat them as well pretty good.
We did, yeah.
And then you went to Eisenhower, and they gave you a loss while you were here, but you played Eisenhower.
Yeah, this was the first time Eisenhower has beaten us since 2019. So we have been the superior team for the last few years.
What do you think happened in that?
Well, it was a combination of us losing 3 of our top players, because we lost Tessa and Tasha from last year. We also lost Grace, who was one of our best doubles players. And they had 6 freshmen come in. One is ranked top 20 in the country. The other is ranked top 15th in the state. And the other 3 are all extremely good. So it was a combination of us going down and then came up, and they were quite good. And they'll be good for the next few years, unfortunately.
But then you had, for the rivalry between Romeo and Eisenhower, there's a big win you had at Grosse Pointe South after that. After that...
right. Grosse Pointe South, that was the first time in history that girls or boys that we beat in Grosse Pointe South. Grosse Pointe South is traditionally one of the great teams in the state. They've won multiple state championships. So a victory against Grosse Pointe South, this wasn't one of their greatest teams ever, but a victory against them is a pretty good accomplishment. And their doubles was outstanding, and we were able to take their 3 and 4 doubles. So that was...
I mean, it shows the kids bounced back after the lost Eisenhower, and to beat Grosse Pointe South for the first time. And
yeah, the thing,
even though they were down, it's still...
Yeah, the bounce back, very rarely do our kids feel defeated, because
That was a story of my high school athletic career. I felt defeated.
Well, it's like, when you're playing good, like none of our team was down when we lost to Troy. We
Yep.
knew going beforehand that we were going to lose to Troy. We knew pretty much we were going to lose to Eisenhower this year because of the change in the team. So they only get down if they personally had a bad day based on their capabilities. So we never really have that, like, oh, we lost. They're pretty confident in where they are, and they understand if they lost, it's because they lost to a better opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really go through the ebbs and flows. It's more of our opponents, the ebbs and flows. We didn't really have a match this year where we lost where we shouldn't have lost. Mm. So, which is a good thing.
Well, that includes the following week, May 3rd, at Port Huron Northern.
Port Huron Northern was really, the most important match of the year for us, because at that point, me and some of the top players, we didn't really feel like we had a shot at states this year. Port Huron Northern had a huge freshman class a couple years ago, and they're coming into their prime. So my confidence going to Port Huron Northern was not that high. And we came one set away from tying them, which was a great result, especially on the road and everything that went into the travel in that situation.
You have to go get in the bus and head up or whatever and go up to Port Huron Northern.
Yeah,
it's not an easy
so what those wins gave us, those 3 wins, is that we were going to be seated at regionals in those spots higher than 4th, which is a big deal. That gives us an opening to get to some finals at regional. So at that point, that was the first time it was like, ooh, maybe we have an opportunity to do something at regional. So that, even though we lost that, it was a great result for us.
And that, you played some teams that are not from around here. Okemos, number 1, you had a tie with them 4-4. Mm-hmm. And I think we talked a little bit before the show today that Okemos was is a pretty good team in tennis.
They got 2 superstar freshmen that came in, and they went to 1 and 2 singles, which is amazing. We've never had that or not in any time in our recent time that we had a number 1 or a freshman come in that high up. So to have 2 of them, it really propels them, because basically their number 1 from the year before that went down to their number 3. So that pushes everyone down at preset. Now, the interesting about Okemos, one of the reasons we've been playing Okemos so much, is that their present coach is an ex-Romeo tennis player, Olivia Becker. Mm-hmm. So she played, I won't say what year because I don't remember, but she was a top player for us quite a few years ago. So it's kind of cool that she can come home. She actually babysitted one of our players. So it's a good little thing that we have a good
familiarity
connection with there. So when we do the scheduling, we as coaches, we usually come up with the schedules. We create friendships with other coaches, and we have we create our own little rivalries and everything. So I think with her coaching Okemos, we'll have a long.
So you'll play them again.
We'll play them every year if it's possible. In the girls, she doesn't coach the boys,
right? But
it's fun playing, and I know she enjoyed coming here and doing as well as against us as she did.
So then you went way out, got a couple wins in a row. One against Plymouth Salem, I believe, and Walled Lake Western.
Those were all at Romeo on the same day. So we played all 3 of those matches.
So it's good you didn't have to travel down there, because that's a long way away.
No, so those 3 teams all came to us on that Saturday. So we played 3 duels against all of them, and they played each other. So all 3 of us had 3 matches that day.
Okay. So Clarkston was the next.
Clarkson was the next one. Clarkson, outstanding team. They're another team that I think they finished 3rd or 4th this year at the state championship. So they and Troy were 2 teams that, we scheduled to challenge ourselves. And again, it's a great that they want to play us, because, there's only a handful of teams that can compete with them. So for them to play us, especially for Clarkson to come to us,
Was it good for your girls to play them,
it's
even though they got
it's
kinda
awesome.
skunked?
You want to. I mean, I could make a schedule where we go the whole season undefeated. You know, you could avoid the top. You don't want to do that. That doesn't make them better. So the harder the competition, the better they're going to be, especially when it comes, to regional and going to the state championships. So you want to get as
So
many.
you want top-notch
Right.
teams to play
and
against.
and up until the last couple of years, because when I took over the team, we weren't that competitive. So, if I called Troy back then, they would have just laughed at me. And why would we play them? So you really have to get to success to be able to play the successful team.
You got to start beating people, and
Exactly.
and that's how you move up and get scheduled for some of these better teams.
Yep.
And you had after that loss to Clarkson, you tied Stony Creek, which I
Right,
think
Stony-
is probably a pretty good.
Stony Creek's an excellent team. They did very well at the state championships. I'm not sure they were top 10, but right around that area. They're an excellent team that we have a good rivalry with. And that tie, I was thinking we were going to lose by one, but our two singles player Chase came out with a big third set victory and clinched the tie.
Clinched the tie for you.
And that is also a regional team. So those 4 points helped us in regional seeding. So at that point, we had an avenue to qualify for states. Because sometimes you go to regional and you don't have a route. There's no way mathematically you can make it based on the seeding. Here, because of the results against PHN and Stony, we had an opportunity to make it, which was a great thing.
It helped to enhance that opportunity that you had to make
Right.
it, and it was simple.
Right.
as-
Without that and the Port Huron Northern result, we wouldn't have come close to making states.
And you finish out the regular season, 3 straight wins, one against Cass Tech, and then Berkeley, and then Cuzno.
Yep.
And that had the kids had to be pretty excited about that. That wins are better than losses, and you won pretty handily in all those matches.
We did. Berkeley's a very good team. They qualified for states. So that was a good little finish to the season.
And then you go into the regional. So tell us what happened there in the regional.
The regionals, we did pretty much what we should have done. We lost a couple of matches that we could have maybe won, but we won some matches that were pretty tight. So just we got 17, we needed 18. So we're just one away. So it was close.
But it's not horseshoes.
Yeah. And the thing is, like I said earlier, we were disappointed that day that we were one short. But looking at the early goals of the season, what we had, where we ended up was outstanding. So even though we were one short, a lot of us didn't think we were going to be close to that before the season. So bittersweet on the day, but overall an outstanding season that the young ladies did.
And that's great. And we'll play a little game here. Not a game, but just a little, I'm going to say their name and just tell me what comes into your mind about their, tennis for the most part. Tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are about these players. So if I look at Trista Emile.
Trista Emile is our number one doubles player. She is one of the best volleyers in the state. Incredible athleticism. She's been playing with
Go
us.
sideways, back and forth, and
She can do everything. Yeah. She's just so quick. What makes her so good is that she instantly knows the angle the ball is going, and she can quickly go there and get to the point. She's a volleyball player. She wasn't a tennis player when she was a freshman. I put her on the varsity team as a freshman. She only played tennis twice before that, but she was so good athletically.
Which is back to your point, what you were talking about, wanting athletes out there.
She is the perfect example of an athlete making it.
Lillian Ames.
Lily is a girl that never played tennis before, about 2 months before last season. Very good athlete. She is a soccer goalie. She's going to be playing collegiate soccer in Indiana. Um, Again, super quick. She can see the ball quickly and get to it. Incredible net player. I just wish these girls had played middle school
Yeah.
and gotten more tennis skills to them because they could have been really special. They are special, but at a much higher level.
How about Isabella Badalamenti?
Bella is a sophomore. This was her second year on varsity. She played two doubles this year and had an outstanding season. She ended up playing with our freshman, Gabby. I'll get to Gabby later. Two undersized players, undersized being they're both short, so they don't have the advantage of being net girls. In doubles,
Yeah, you can get up and...
yeah, for those that don't know much about tennis, in doubles, it's really one at the net, which is a girl close to the net putting away volleys. Volley is some ball that's hit before it bounces in the air. Both these girls are comparable volleyers, but they're not like Trista's like 5'9" or something like that. So she's got incredible reach. These girls are more small, but for two girls that aren't traditional doubles players, they did an outstanding job.
How about Avery Coe?
Avery Coe, she jumped up. She was Trista's one doubles partner last year. She jumped all the way up to 3 singles this year, which was a pleasant surprise that she did that well. And she had an outstanding season. She's also an incredibly smart girl academically. She was Romeo gives top 10 every year for academics, and she was one of the top 10. I think she was in the top 5. I'm not really sure, but she's a good tennis player and a smart person too.
Allison Culkin.
Allison Allie is another volleyball player, extremely good athlete. She was Trista's partner at one doubles, and they had a very good season this year. Allie is an outstanding volleyball player too. I just need to get Allie to play more in the summer because she actually has really good potential ground strokes. She's a girl that if she had played early on, I think she would have been one of my best players.
How about Kayla de Guzman?
Kayla is a sophomore. She played 4 singles this year, and she was outstanding. I think she only lost 4 games all season. She was 21-4.
Wow. And Gabriella
Gabby,
Farnese.
Gabby was our freshman this year. Didn't know where she would fit on the team. She played middle school for me last year. She is a girl that's all out hustle. She doesn't have much tennis experience other than that 1 year at middle school, but she runs for every ball. She never gives up on the ball. She's quick. She gets a good jump on the ball. She's a soccer player, so she's a great athlete. She doesn't have the size of some of my other athletes, but so she started off in the bench, but she quickly earned a starting position with Bella at 2 doubles, and she had a fantastic season.
That's good hard work there. And Kate Gorsetti.
Kate Gorsetti was one of our bench players this year. She played JV with us most of her career, and she got the opportunity to play varsity this year. She also was a varsity track athlete this year, and those 2 sports go simultaneously, so I had to share her.
So you had to share. I was going to say that, well, I mean, it's you say you want the athletes, but then then you have one that has to play the same time you're playing.
Yeah, she also does cross country, so she doesn't have a lot of time for tennis. But she's a phenomenal athlete.
I can't do cross anything.
I'm telling you, Romeo's got a great cross country program, one of the best in the state, and that I wish more of my girls would do that because that gets them incredible conditioning.
Do they have the ambulance there? Maybe I'll run one.
I wouldn't recommend for you, but for my high school girls, definitely.
Okay. Chase Janabet.
Chase was one of our, she's our senior. She was our best senior and one of our best players we've had for a long time. She's one of that collection of greatest singles lineups Romeo's ever had. And she was fantastic this year. She was 18-6.
Wow. Good record.
Good record, good career. I don't have the total for her, but I think she's got the most wins of any girl that I've coached. I gotta do the math on that, but um, she was a singles player for 3 years, so I'm pretty sure she has the most singles wins of any girl that I've coached.
How about Sawyer Lack?
Sawyer Lack, I didn't know. She is a JV player. She was not varsity.
So she wasn't. You'll get her next year, maybe.
We'll see. We have some really good freshmen coming in, some superstars come in, and so it's going to be challenging for JV players to make it. But she is one of those girls that gives all out effort. So,
How about Maya Mushung?
Maya, she is our three doubles player, and she and Anna. Let's see, what was their record? They are both of them. Let me talk about Maya and Anna together because I'll say
Anna Wesley.
Yes, they are the same person basically. They're both basketball players. They both play for the school, and they do a lot of league basketball during the season because that's their primary sport. Unfortunately, most of our multiple athletes, tennis is the secondary sport, and I've got to respect that because I need them. So they miss some matches and some time because of basketball, but they're both super athletes and they're both sophomores. So their prime is just coming up.
How about Carmen Page?
Carmen Page was Lily's partner at four doubles. Carmen is also a sophomore. Carmen made a huge jump from last year to this year as far as playing quality. They actually made it to the final of regional, which helped us get to 70 points. They got us to the final, and Kayla at four singles also got to the final.
Kayla Pokorski.
No, Kayla de Guzman.
Kayla de Guzman.
Those two were the two that got us to the finals of regional. We just needed one more team to get to a final, but
Well,
just short.
How about Kayla Pokorski?
Kayla was she's been on JV for the last few years, and she was one of our bench varsity players. And you say bench, but they play a lot of matches. She was 7-5 on season playing, so she got quite a few minutes. So she did good.
And Jade Salvatore.
Jade Salvatore was our number one player. She's been one of the. I talked about the Okemos girls playing as freshmen at 1 and 2. Jade played number 2 singles for us as a freshman, and that's the best a freshman's ever done. So she played 2 singles the last 2 years behind Tessa, who's a college-level player, and she got her chance to play 1, and she was outstanding this year. She was 12-12. And 12-12 may not sound spectacular, but when you're number 1, that's basically she was the best.
You're playing the top.
You're playing the top. So she was the best high school player in Romeo. She's also better than 12 other high schools that we played.
Yeah.
And if we played all the other high schools, I mean, she's at the top half. We don't have the all-state results yet. I don't expect her to make all-state or honorable all-state this year, but she would have been just under it this year because half the players she played were either all-state or honorable all-state this year. And she had some pretty good results against them, even in losing causes.
And finally, Natalie Silas.
Natalie Silas was our top bench player this year. She's a JV player. Most of her career, and she got to play varsity this year as a senior. She actually won, I think, 9 games for us this year, which is pretty good, especially for this year because we lost. We didn't play as many games as we normally do because we lost 2 weekends due to weather.
Yeah, there was a couple that were canceled.
So that was 6 matches that we lost. And it really hurt our bench players because our bench players would have played in those, I think, both of them. So to lose those 6 matches and still get 9 wins for the season is pretty good. And Natalie actually got to play some singles this year, which is not very common that we have our subs in at singles. I think she's the first one in 4 or 5 years to do that. And she did pretty good. She was 2-1 that day as a sub playing singles, which
Matt? What are you looking forward to for the girls tennis team for next spring? What do you think? I know you had predictions for this year, but what do you expect?
Well, it's going to be interesting because we're going to be kind of in the same situation we were in this year. We lose Chase and Avery, and we lose Lily. We do gain some top level freshmen coming in.
Yeah, you said you had some freshmen coming
in.
in.
We have Kayla's sister coming in, Kayla de Guzman. Mm-hmm. Her sister's coming in, who's top level. And we have this other girl, Alexa, coming in, and they both are going to be in contention to actually play singles. We also have Anna's sister, who's the best player on my middle school team. She's got a shot at making varsity. And we got a JV girl that played quite a few minutes for us on varsity this year. One of those outstanding athletes. And she should be able to come up. So we actually may have some competition for starting spots, meaning some girls that were starters last year may not be starters next year.
They're going to compete. It sounds like that's good.
It's going to be good. And sometimes we get surprises coming in. So we could have some really good competition, which will make our team that much better. Ike, though, is going to be phenomenal again next year. They got 2 other superstar freshmen coming in. Port Huron Northern is going to be at their peak next year. That their wonder class of a few years ago, they'll all be seniors this year.
Oh, yeah.
And Stony Creek is going to be tough. So it's going to be a battle. We're going to be a good team, maybe a better team than we were this year, but
it's going to be a battle against these other ones that your other competition out there in our sort of league. It does sound like it sounds like it's promising for you for next year for the girls varsity tennis team. Mm-hmm. And we want to have you back sometime before we get going with the boys varsity and maybe give us a little bit of a lowdown on the boys varsity
Sure
tennis.
thing. It's a very exciting year for the boys this year. So,
And I thank you for coming by and chatting with us and giving us a closer, a better look on the insight or better insight on the Romeo varsity girls tennis team.
Well, thanks for happening. I'm very, very pleased that we're getting, the tennis is getting attention like this. If you're a viewer out there and you have a child that's interested in tennis, you can contact me at romeotennis@outlook.com, and I'll answer any questions you have.
Excellent.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Matt. Before we continue here on the Romeo Sports Recap Show, a word from our sponsors. This podcast is powered by the Mitt TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than the Mitt TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the Mitt TV of Romeo. And you can contact them right now via email at mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tv@gmail.com. Now, back to the show.
Today, I am joined by 2 very good friends of mine. You got my sister, Chase Janovet, and one of our other really good friends, Jade Salvatore. Jade plays 1 singles for the tennis team, and Chase plays 2 singles. So we'll start off by just talking about what goes into the development of the start of the season. So you both play tennis year-round. It's your main sport. So tell me about the 2 winter leagues that you guys do together.
So the 2 winter leagues that we do, we play at Peachtree Tennis Club, and that's just kind of like a tournament during the winter where you play doubles and you play singles, and you're just kind of competing for a spot on the top court and to be in the top 3 in that. So it's once a week, every Sunday, and you're just competing for one of the top spots. And then the second one that we do is USTA, and that's more of a national thing. So we're all on, me and Jade, we're on the same USTA team. So we do USTA, and we just compete with a bunch of different teams all around. And you're competing for a spot at the USTA States that we are very fortunate to go to this July in Indiana.
Yeah, so your USTA team is an under-18 league, and it's made up of guys and girls. So you play singles and doubles at that one too. And yeah, we want to talk a little bit more about the tournament you have coming up.
So there's a lot of teams, and we play singles and doubles, like you said there, and it's just one big competition. So we're gonna go and try our best. But a lot of the teams that we're gonna be playing there are far better than the ones that we play around here. So it'll be.
It's in Indianapolis.
Yes.
So
yeah.
we've got a bit of a road trip coming up to go play some tennis. So, like I said, Jade, you were at 1 singles this year, and Chase, you're at 2 singles. And for those who don't know a lot about high school tennis, the top 4 players play singles, and then there are 4 pairs of doubles as well. So at the beginning of the season, there are challenge matches that are played to decide your rankings. So after those challenge matches, you guys ended at 1 and 2, and then started the season against Dakota and Lance Cruz with 2 pretty good wins. Those are tough teams, especially the Dakota 1 singles that you faced, Jade. She's a pretty good player. But then you headed to Allegan for the Invitational, which really was like different than any competition we've ever played. The level of talent that was at that competition, because there were 8 teams total, right? That was different than any level that we have ever played at. So you guys want to talk about your results from that one?
So when we started off that morning, I was so nervous because Burr always sends out the lineups on the email and always say, oh, you'll beat this team and you'll beat that team. But once you get there and you don't beat that team, you feel like you didn't do good that day. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened to me in my first match because you never said anything about that. So I was a little down on myself, but the next girl I played, I won. And I was actually really proud of that. And then the last team that we played, I think it was West Ottawa. We had a rain delay in between. That was like 2.5 hours, and I was just so done after that. I didn't even want to play. I just wanted to go home. But they cleared it, and we played, and I was so surprised because this girl was like really good. She was an all-state player. I've never played anyone that good that I've actually beaten, and I beat her 6-4, 6-4, and I was so shocked about that.
Yeah. And that meant that you won the consolation bracket because you lost your first match, so you got entered into the consolation bracket, which does not mean it is any less of a victory than any other one. So everybody was really proud. West Ottawa was your last match that you won. And Chase, you also ended with West Ottawa, if you want to talk about what led you there too.
Yeah, so the first match that I played, I went into it thinking that I wasn't going to make it very far because obviously those teams, those are the teams that go to states and they win states. So I played my first match and I actually won, and I was really shocked. I was playing really well. And then I went into my second match and I actually played the girl who took second, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I didn't do so well that much. Definitely lost, but it was still a really good match. It's always really fun playing people that are just at that next level because it just makes you so much better. You learn from that player. But then after I lost that one, I played for 3rd and 4th place, and I played West Ottawa, like you said, for my last match, and I totally thought I was going to lose that one too. I didn't have any confidence in that, but I actually I ended up playing really well, and she was playing really well too, so it was a really good match, but I ended up winning that one, which is a big shock. So
with a little bit of a cramp in between that gave everyone that was watching a good scare.
Yeah, a little injury.
And then, like they touched on, you guys did play Grosse Pointe South this year, beat them for the first time in team history, and for both of you, this being like your 2nd, 3rd year on the team, that was pretty exciting, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And then we'll get into some of the tougher losses of the season that came against some of our biggest rivals, which Eisenhower, known to be a Romeo tennis rival and Romeo sports rival in general, but what a lot of people probably don't know is how big Port Huron Northern is a rival of Romeo that's developed over the past couple of years. We've not had the greatest interactions with them, so do you guys want to talk about both of those matches, Eisenhower and Port Huron Northern?
So we started playing these girls when they were all freshmen, and we came into that watching that these girls were all freshmen and like we were all older. So we were definitely intimidated that because they were so young and that they beat us. We were very upset about it, but the only reason that I really think that we got off to such a bad start was the way that our first match against them ever went, because it was rain off and on and on and on, and the Port Huron coach wouldn't let it go.
Nope.
So I was fortunate enough to get hurt in my match, so I lost pretty early when we moved indoors, but I remember hearing that you guys were there until like 9 o'clock at night on a school night, and I could not be there.
Thanks to Chase.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chase, for the marathon match that went on until 9 o'clock at Port Huron Northern.
Sorry about that one.
But then talking about Eisenhower this year, we know that they have some of honestly, the best talent that they've had in a really long time, with Gabby, who plays at their 1 singles, and Addie, who plays at their 2 singles. So you both, Chase especially with Addie, you did hang in there quite well. And I mean, she is a great player. These are girls that play all the time. So you guys did have to be pretty proud of yourselves for those matches, right?
Yeah, I mean, during the off season, I like at Peachtree and everything, we do like clinics and stuff, and once in a while, you know, I will play Addie, and sometimes I get some really good results, you know, where I'll come really close or I'll even beat her. So then out there on the court playing like a full-on match with her, it was a little disappointing to see that I didn't take more games off of her than what I did. But, you know, I mean, hanging in there and having long points, taking, you know, all the games that we had, the distance, you know, I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, and we'll touch on both of your individual records. Chase, you finished 18-6, and Jade, you were 12-12. I mean, those are just great results at 1 singles and 2 singles. And considering that you both played at lower positions last year, and the jump from where you played to where you are now it's pretty incredible. Like, the competition level at 3 singles is not the same as what you see at 2 singles.
No.
And the competition at 2 singles is not what you see at 1 singles. So how happy were you guys with those records this year?
I was so surprised by my record. At the very end, I really thought I had a losing record, because for the past 2 years, Tessa's been our number 1 singles, and she's never had a losing record. So I was really intimidated by that, if I was going to be the first singles player to have a losing record in the last couple of years. So just to have a tied record, I'd rather that be a tied record than a losing record, because that's way more important to me. And I realized how good number 1 singles was watching Tessa and watching her lose, because I thought she was outstanding.
Yeah.
But coming to 1 singles and playing all these girls, I was so surprised by how well I did, especially against some of our big matches. Even though I lost to Eisenhower like in less than 45 minutes, I still got a couple points off of her that I was super proud of.
Definitely. And Chase, for you?
I was definitely not expecting to have as good of a record as I did, because, like you said, the jump from 3 singles to 2 singles, the talent is just out of this world. I mean, it's a really big jump. So playing a lot of those girls and everything, even if I didn't win the match, like our Troy match that we had, I mean, it was 4-6, 4-6. I came really close to having almost a win there, you know, taking the match distance. So, I mean, the talent level is just insane. So I'm really proud of my record, really happy that I had, you know, majority wins, even though a lot of them were really difficult.
Yeah, and when it comes to singles for tennis specifically, I mean, when you're out there, you're by yourself. I mean, you get changeovers and you can have coaching at changeovers, but when you're out there, you're by yourself. So do you guys want to talk about how important mindset is? Especially like at 1 and 2 singles, you're playing the best girls on teams, and it can be really difficult, and you can't get down on yourself, because then you get down on yourself, you start playing bad. So you want to talk about mindset?
I'm sure both of us, when we both started out playing, we had terrible mindsets. I remember multiple matches where I get yelled at by my mom at the very end for slamming my racket, or the next racket that I slam, it was the one I pay for. So definitely coming into 1 singles this year, I told myself all I want to do is just at least try. So whenever I was out there, I wouldn't think of it, as if I'm pressured into winning this match, or if I have to win this match, it's all my fault. I just went into it thinking I'm going to do my best, and no matter what happens, I'm doing better than what I did last year.
Chase, for you?
I mean, like Jade said, the jump from spots is very different, and the talent level is very different. So you just have to remember that you're in a very different place than you were a year ago or 2 years ago, and that you should just be really proud and happy for yourself that you've made it this far. And like, when you're down on yourself in matches, it's very easy to get mad at yourself. If you're just having an off day or whatever, it's very easy to get down on yourself, and you just, whatever happened in like the first set, or even if it's going to a third set, you just have to forget about those and just start fresh and have a clear mindset and really just open up to the possibility of being able to pull it through and, you know, make yourself feel better than you were before.
Yeah, and helping with those mindsets is definitely some of the friendships you guys have made throughout the years on the team. Like I said, 2-3 years for both of you on the team. So do you want to talk about some of the people that you've met there that you've become really close friends with?
I first met my friend Grace at a tennis camp in 8th grade, and she was the first one to talk to me ever. I met Chase in 8th grade, but I didn't like Chase much.
She hated me.
I was so jealous because it was all before COVID, and the next year I was gonna get an award, and then COVID ended, and I was the only 8th grader who didn't get an award, and Chase did, and a bunch of other people did. So I was jealous at the time. I was terrified by Tessa because she was such a good tennis player. And even though I wouldn't play her at practices, I would see her hit, and I'm just like, I probably won't ever be as good as her. So it definitely was intimidating, but as soon as we got on the team freshman year, having you there and having all the other girls there, it was amazing. It made me feel like we were all part of a team, and that was probably the last time that I remember having a good group of friends, because I haven't had many, because I'm just very shy and I don't have many friends. And just coming to having you 4 girls, it was just amazing. Having Chase really just brought me out of my shell.
Yeah. Chase, for you?
Which is a little shocking because, I mean, like Jade said, the first 2 years of us knowing each other, she's not a fan of me.
You stole her award.
I stole her award. I've apologized many times for it. I feel like I've made up for it by now. I'm hoping I did. But, I mean, like Jade said, I mean, throughout the years, everything, even though Tessa left, she went to college, so did Grace when she was on the team. They still come home. We still, we hang out with them all the time. We play tennis with them all the time still. So we still, have that tennis bond that we had when they were still on the team. And, like with you, we still play tennis,
You're still here.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So, I mean, we see them all the time. We still hang out with them. It's just friendships that'll be, lifelong that we've made all together on the tennis team.
We joke. We call it our squad.
Yeah, we have a squad.
We gotta mention the squad wouldn't be the squad without a certain other individual that's a part of our team.
2 other certain individuals. Well, John is the man. John pays for everything.
Coach John, our dad.
Yeah, our daddy's also the assistant coach on the girls varsity team. He plays tennis with us a lot. He's part of the squad.
He's one of the girls.
Squad. Yeah.
So, in combination with all of our friend groups and everything, why don't you guys tell me each favorite memory you've had? It could be from this year. It could be from your years in general. Just a favorite memory you have from being on the team.
There's a lot of them because we've spent so many years together and we spent so much time together. I would say probably from this year, it was probably our last team dinner that we had. Well, not team dinner, but squad dinner that we had. When we were all together at Buffalo Wild Wings, all of us just hanging out. It was the last time that Chase was ever going to play on the tennis team. And that just kind of leaves me there. So it made me a little sad, but it was good to have all of us back because it felt like freshman year all over again.
Yeah. Chase?
Yeah, one of my favorite memories is from this year, actually, because it was a Grosse Pointe South match, because we had never beaten them ever before. And, I mean, we played them last year, and I got my butt kicked last year, so I didn't do too well. So, I mean, even though their team had changed a lot and they lost a lot of good players, it was still an accomplishment that our whole team all together. And I remember one of our teammates, Avery, who was our 3 singles, her match went longer than the rest. So we were all, we were there watching and everything. And I just remember it was cold outside. So me, Jade, even you, we were all huddled underneath a blanket with
One single blanket.
Yeah, one
the only
single
blanket we brought that day.
Yeah, the one blanket. And we were all just huddled underneath it watching the match and just cheering around and everything. It was a good memory.
Yeah. And definitely lots of road trips too.
Oh, yeah.
Coach Burr likes to schedule those ones in Petoskey.
He likes us to drive.
Our nice little 3.5-4 hour drive.
Oh, yeah.
Then we got substitutes.
It just gives us a reason to shop.
Yeah,
it gives us a reason to go downtown shopping.
We're not going for tennis.
No, we're going for the shopping.
We're going for the shopping in Petoskey and the new discovered shopping in Holland. That was the new addition this year. That's the highlight of the trip. So, Chase, you graduated this year. You were a senior on the team this year. Jade still got one more year. So, Chase, you want to talk about your post-high school plans?
Well, it's obviously very sad that it's my last year on the tennis team. I mean, I've made a lot of good friends, and the squad that we've made, I would consider them all family. It's so I'm really gonna miss playing alongside Jade, and even though she's got 1 year left on the team, I'm still gonna come every match, support, so it's really bittersweet that I'm moving on to bigger things, but it's kind of sad that it's over. But I'm not playing tennis in college, just kind of leaving it in the past a little bit. I'll still play, but I'm not going anywhere with it. I'm getting my real estate license, and then to be determined if I'm attending a college to get a degree to go with my license.
Yes. Jade, we know you still got one more year, but you want to talk about what you're planning on doing right now?
Yeah, I still have one more year, so it's going to be sad because I'm going to be the only girl left on the team that was a part of the squad. So I got to make new friends, so that's a little hard for me. But there's some girls on the team who are really nice.
Yeah.
I would love to play tennis in college because, I don't know, it's just, I know as much as I don't like to lose, I still love playing the sport. And some colleges have talked to me about it, and it just, like, makes me feel like if some colleges just, like, email me and just say that they're interested, it just makes me feel like I could do it. Because Tessa's such an amazing player, and watching her play her freshman year as one singles, that was amazing. So it just makes me want to, like, live up to the expectation of how she played.
Yeah.
But the hard thing is, I want to go into civil engineering or architecture, so the only couple schools that have tennis around here are, like, Lawrence Tech or U of D, or not even U of D, they are a better tennis team, but it's just hard because I don't want to leave the state, and I would love to stay back at home with all you guys, but if I want to play tennis, I might have to move somewhere, and I'm hoping, my original plan was go U of D for architecture and then find another place to go play tennis, but now I'm thinking Lawrence Tech because they do have a tennis team. Even though we might not hear about it, it's still a pretty good tennis team, so I just want to...
You got time.
Yeah, I got time. I got another year.
You still got a year.
I still have another year with Burr and everyone else on the team.
Well, thank you guys for joining me today. Again, we've got Jade Salvatore, who plays at one singles, and Chase Janabet, who plays at two singles. And Jade, we look forward to watching you again next year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in to this episode of the Romeo Sports Recap Show, powered by the Mitt TV. Remember, this show is available on both YouTube and Spotify. You can subscribe to the Mitt TV YouTube page and click the notification bell to stay up to date on the latest episodes of the Romeo Sports Recap. Or you can find us on Spotify and follow our podcast, Romeo Sports Recap. From the Mitt TV, I'm Tim Meyer here with Madison Janabet, signing off with a final word from our sponsors. This podcast is powered by the Mitt TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than the Mitt TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the Mitt TV of Romeo. And you can contact them right now via email at mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tv@gmail.com.